December 22nd started like any other day. Arid, cold, gray, and full of my family's usual disdain. I was sitting in my modest office, wearing what my sister Catherine called my thrift store suit while reviewing acquisition documents for my latest property purchase. The irony wasn't lost on me as I signed the papers making me the owner of the city's most prestigious residential complex. The very building where my family lived in their luxury penthouses. My phone buzzed. Another family group chat notification. I already knew what it would be about Mana's Christmas arrangements at the Mason family estate, the same estate I had quietly purchased 3 months ago through one of my holding companies. Catherine, 9:15 a.m. Important family announcement regarding Christmas. Everyone please read. Mom, 9:16 a.m. What is it, dear? Catherine, 9:16 a.m. We need to discuss Michael. I don't think we should include him this year. I leaned back in my chair watching the messages roll in. The corner office of Mason Holdings, my real office, stood empty across the street. To my family, I worked as a junior property manager in a small real estate firm. In reality, I owned both buildings and 70% of the commercial real estate in the downtown area. Dad, 9:17 a.m. He is still family, Catherine. Catherine, 9:17 a.m. Dad, he's embarrassing. He can't even afford proper gifts. Last year he brought homemade cookies. Cookies, to a Mason family Christmas. Those cookies cost $500 from the city's most exclusive bakery. I just transferred them to a homemade-looking container. Another part of maintaining my cover. Mom, 9:18 a.m. Catherine has a point. And that apartment he lives in. It's in such a questionable area. My questionable apartment was actually the penthouse of the building I lived in, accessed by a private elevator. The shabby exterior was scheduled for a multi-million-dollar renovation next spring, all part of the plan. James, 9:19 a.m. Plus he's always taking notes about our business discussions, probably hoping to get investment tips since he can't figure it out himself. I glanced at my notes from last Christmas, detailed records of my family's financial mismanagement, suspicious transactions, and questionable business practices. Evidence I'd been gathering for years. Catherine, 9:20 a.m. Exactly, and now he's working as some low-level property manager. The Masons don't do low-level anything. I opened my laptop, checking my real net worth, $4.2 billion as of this morning. The Mason family fortune, which they were so proud of, was barely a fraction of that. Mom, 9:21 a.m. It's decided then. We'll tell him there's limited space this year. Better than having him embarrass us in front of the Hendersons and Whitneys. The Hendersons worked for me through 3 different shell companies. The Whitneys tech firm was majority owned by my venture capital division. None of them knew that either. Dad, 9:22 a.m. I'll handle it. Michael always was the disappointing one. The disappointing one, who had spent the last 8 years building an empire while they weren't looking, who had systematically acquired every property, business, and asset they depended on, who had documented every instance of their cruelty and arrogance. Catherine, 9:23 a.m. Perfect. Now we can have a proper Mason Christmas without any embarrassments. I picked up my phone, dialing my lawyer's number. David? It's time. Send out all the notices on Christmas morning, 9 a.m. sharp. Yes, everything we discussed. The plan had been in motion for years. Every dismissive comment, every cruel exclusion, every arrogant proclamation had been noted and factored in. While they thought I was failing, I was building. While they mocked my small job, I was buying the very buildings they worked in. While they excluded me from their precious family events, I was becoming their silent landlord, employer, and creditor. My phone buzzed again. Dad, 9:30 a.m. Michael's son. About Christmas this year. I let him type out his carefully worded exclusion. The same man who had told me 10 years ago that I would never amount to anything in the real estate business. Who had laughed when I said I wanted to learn property management from the ground up. Dad, 9:31 a.m. Given space constraints and the number of important business associates attending, we think it's best if you skip this year's celebration. I'm sure you understand. Perhaps you can have your own small Christmas in your apartment. I typed back a simple response. I understand completely, Dad. Have a wonderful Christmas. What he didn't know was that I had already planned my Christmas celebration. In my real office, watching as they received the notifications that would change everything. Every property they lived in, Mies owned by me. Every business they worked in, Mies controlled by my companies. Every asset they thought they controlled legally, mine. The next few days passed in a blur of final preparations. My team of lawyers had everything ready. The security cameras were upgraded. The property management teams were briefed. Everything was in place for Christmas morning. On December 24th, I drove my old car, a carefully maintained older model I kept for family appearances, to my small apartment. Through the windows, I could see the lights of my family's penthouse apartments in the distance. Tomorrow everything would change. My phone buzzed one last time that evening. Catherine, 8:45 p.m. Just saw Michael's sad little Christmas tree through his window. Thank God he won't be ruining our celebration tomorrow. The sad little tree was visible through my decoy apartment window. The real one I kept for appearances. My actual penthouse took up the top 3 floors of the building, including a private roof garden, where a magnificent 20-foot Christmas tree stood, decorated by the city's top designers. I smiled, thinking of the carefully orchestrated revelations planned for tomorrow. The property notices would arrive first, informing them that Mason Holdings, my company, now owned all their homes. Then the business notifications, their companies now belonged to my conglomerate. Finally, the evidence packages, documenting years of their financial misdeeds, but also offering a path to redemption through honest work and changed behavior. I picked up a framed photo from my desk. The last family Christmas I attended, 5 years ago. They were all there, dressed in their expensive clothes, wearing their superior smiles. I was in the background, in my cheap suit, taking notes in my little notebook. None of them realized I was actually documenting the final details needed for my takeover of the family business. A message from my real estate director came through, all paperwork finalized. The Mason family properties are officially transferred. Notifications scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I sent back a simple proceed as planned. Opening my safe, I reviewed the documents one last time. Property deeds, business transfers, bank statements, and surveillance records. 8 years of careful planning and strategic acquisition. While they thought I was failing, I had been building an empire larger than anything they could imagine. My phone lit up with another group chat notification. Mom, 9:15 p.m. Everything is perfect for tomorrow. The caterers are prepared, the decorations are exquisite, and all the right people will be there. Catherine, 9:16 p.m. Finally, a proper Mason Christmas without any embarrassments. James, 9:17 p.m. Did anyone drive by Michael's place? Bet he's having a microwave dinner alone. If they had actually driven by, they would have seen my decoy apartment dark and empty. I was actually in my penthouse office, finalizing the details of tomorrow's revelations with my executive team. Sir, my assistant Sarah appeared at the door. The security teams are in place at all properties. Legal teams are standing by. Would you like to review the timeline one more time? I nodded, standing to look out over the city. My city, though none of them knew it yet. Let's go through it one last time. Sarah opened her tablet. 9 a.m. Property notices delivered to all Mason family residences. 9:15 a.m. Business ownership transfer notifications sent to all their offices. 9:30 a.m. Evidence packages delivered by courier. 10 a.m. Your car arrives at the Mason estate. 10:15 a.m. The reveal. Perfect, I replied, thinking of the security cameras I'd had installed throughout the family estate. Every reaction would be recorded. Not for revenge, but for protection. I knew my family well enough to expect them to try to spin this their way. A final message lit up my phone. Dad, 10 p.m. Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Tomorrow will be the perfect demonstration of what the Mason family represents. He had no idea how right he was. Tomorrow would indeed show exactly what the Mason family represented, but not in the way he imagined. I sent one last message to my lawyer. Everything ready for tomorrow. David replied instantly. All set. Are you sure about the terms? You could take everything, leave them with nothing. No, I typed back. The plan stays as is. They get a chance to earn back 20% of their assets through honest work and changed behavior. This isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. I looked out at the city lights one more time. Tomorrow everything would change. Not just for my family, but for all the employees they'd mistreated, all the business partners they'd deceived, all the people they'd looked down on. The disappointing son they'd excluded from Christmas was about to give them a holiday they'd never forget. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold. From my penthouse I watched the sun rise over the city, knowing that in precisely 3 hours, my family's world would change forever. My phone had been buzzing since dawn, with their excited messages about the perfect Mason family Christmas. 8:45 a.m. Catherine group chat. Everything is perfect. The caterers are setting up, and the Hendersons just confirmed they're coming. James group chat. Did anyone tell Michael not to try showing up anyway? You know how dense he can be. Mom group chat. He knows he's not welcome. Though I drove by his sad little apartment yesterday. All dark. Maybe he left town in shame. I smiled, checking my watch. 15 minutes until the first wave. My security feeds showed the Mason estate buzzing with activity. Caterers, decorators, and early arriving guests. All employees of my various companies. Though they didn't know it yet. 8:55 a.m. My private elevator opened, and Sarah walked in with my executive team. All couriers are in position, she reported, handing me a tablet showing multiple security feeds. Legal teams are standing by. Would you like to watch the deliveries live? Put it on the main screen, I instructed, adjusting my Italian suit, not the thrift store one they were used to seeing me in. The massive display lit up with multiple camera angles. The Mason Estate's front entrance, my siblings' penthouses, their offices, and various other properties they thought they owned. 9 a.m. right on schedule. Couriers approached each location. At the Mason Estate, the security guard, who actually worked for my company, accepted the priority documents. Similar scenes played out at every property. 9:05 a.m. Dad group chat. What's this legal nonsense that just arrived? Catherine group chat. I got one too. Some ridiculous notice about property ownership. James group chat. This has to be a mistake. My penthouse. I watched through the security feeds as they all gathered in the main hall of the Mason estate, clutching their notices. The catering staff, all informed of the morning's plan, continued their work with hidden smiles. 9:10 a.m.
What do you mean we don't own the estate?
My father's voice boomed through the security feed. This has been in our family for generations. Catherine was frantically calling her lawyer, who, unbeknownst to her, had been hired by my firm months ago. James was trying to access his banking accounts, only to find his access restricted pending ownership transfer review. 9:15 a.m. Right on schedule, the second wave of notifications arrived. The business ownership transfers. I watched as my father's face turned from red to pale as he read the documents. Mason Industries, Mason Development, Mason Global, all of them, he stammered, looking at the papers. Transferred to Mason Holdings. I've never even heard of them. Mom group chat. Someone do something. Call the lawyers. Call the police. Catherine group chat. None of our lawyers are answering. And the bank says all our accounts are under review. 9:20 a.m. Sarah handed me a fresh coffee as we watched the chaos unfold. Sir, the evidence packages are ready for delivery. Are you sure about including the redemption clause? I nodded. Everyone deserves a chance to change. Even them. 9:30 a.m. The third wave arrived. Thick envelopes containing 8 years of documented evidence. Every shady deal. Every mistreated employee. Every tax evasion scheme. Every instance of nepotism and corruption. But also the way forward. A carefully structured plan allowing them to earn back a portion of their assets through legitimate work and documented behavioral change. The security feeds showed my family huddled together in the grand hall, their perfect Christmas forgotten. The Hendersons and Whitneys, had quietly excused themselves, following the script I'd provided. Dad, private message. Michael, something terrible is happening. We need your help. I know we excluded you, but you're still family. Please. I didn't respond. Instead, I stood up, straightened my tie, and nodded to Sarah. Time for phase 2. 9:45 a.m. My fleet of vehicles, not the old car they were used to seeing, departed from my building's private garage. 3 armored SUVs, my private car, and 2 vehicles carrying my security team. Catherine group chat. Someone just bought everything. The houses, the offices, the companies. Who is Mason Holdings? James group chat. Wait, Mason Holdings. You don't think? Mom group chat. Don't be ridiculous. Michael can barely afford his rent. 10 a.m. My convoy pulled up to the Mason estate gates. The security guard, Ann, my employee, smiled and waved us through. The cameras caught my family's confused expressions as the vehicles approached. I stepped out of my car, no longer wearing the careful disguise of failure they were used to seeing. Behind me, my executive team emerged from the other vehicles. Merry Christmas, I said, walking into the grand hall, where they stood surrounded by papers and notices. I believe you all received my messages. The silence was deafening. Catherine's phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the marble floor. James stumbled backward into a chair. Mom's perfectly made-up face went pale. Dad stepped forward, his hands shaking. Michael, what is this? This, I said, gesturing to the documents scattered around them, is the truth. Every property you thought you owned, mine. Every business you thought you controlled, mine. Every account you thought was secure, under my authority. Impossible, Catherine whispered. You're nothing. A failure, a disappointment. Sarah stepped forward, handing each of them a tablet. Mr. Mason's current net worth and holdings, authenticated by international auditing firms. The Mason family assets you thought you controlled represent approximately 8% of his total portfolio. They stared at the numbers in disbelief. 8 years of their mockery, dismissal and cruelty had funded an empire they couldn't have imagined. Why? Mom asked, her voice small. Why this elaborate deception? I walked to the Christmas tree, the one they'd been so proud of, in the home they thought they owned. Because you needed to learn about humility, about treating people with respect, about the difference between appearing successful and actually earning success. You're going to destroy us, James said, slumping in his chair. No, I replied, picking up one of the evidence packages. I'm going to give you something you never gave me, a chance to earn your way forward. I opened the package, showing them the redemption clause. 20% of your original assets can be earned back, through honest work, through documented changed behavior, through proving you've learned from this. Dad looked up from the papers, his face showing something I'd never seen before. Respect. You orchestrated all of this, built all of this, while you thought I was failing. Yes, every mockery, every exclusion, every cruel comment gave me more motivation. But this isn't about revenge. Catherine scoffed, some of her arrogance returning. Then what is it about? Legacy, I said simply. The Mason name used to mean something, not just money or power, but integrity, innovation, real value. You turned it into a symbol of arrogance and corruption. I'm restoring what it should be. Sarah stepped forward again, distributing more documents. Your new positions, should you choose to accept them. Entry-level roles, in various Mason Holdings subsidiaries. Real jobs, with real responsibilities. No nepotism, no shortcuts. Entry-level. Mom looked horrified. At our age, you'll be treated like any other employee, I confirmed. Your performance will be monitored. Your behavior will be evaluated. Your progress will determine how much of your assets you can earn back. The room fell silent, as they absorbed the magnitude of what had happened. Their perfect Christmas lay in shambles around them. But I was offering them something more valuable, a chance at redemption. And if we refuse? James asked, still trying to find a way out. Then you'll have what you thought I had. Nothing. The evidence packages detail enough violations to keep you in legal proceedings for years. Choose wisely. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. Those cookies last Christmas? They were from La Patisserie downtown. Cost $500. I just put them in a different container. Merry Christmas. The security feeds showed their stunned faces as I walked out, my team following. Phase 2 was complete. Now came the interesting part, seeing which of them would take the chance to change, and which would cling to their old ways. As my convoy pulled away from the estate, Sarah looked up from her tablet. Sir, your sister Catherine is already on social media, threatening to expose you. I smiled. Release package B to the press. Let's see how she handles the truth being public. And the others, give them until New Year's to decide about the jobs. Some of them might surprise us. My phone buzzed one last time. Dad, private message. I never thought. I'm sorry, son. You proved me wrong. About everything. I didn't respond. Actions would matter more than words now. The next few months would show who really wanted to change, and who just wanted their comfortable lives back. The disappointing son had given them their most important Christmas gift, the opportunity to become better people. Whether they accepted it was up to them. The week between Christmas and New Year's was exactly what I expected, a mix of desperate attempts to regain control, public meltdowns, and the first signs of who might actually be willing to change. December 26. The aftermath. I sat in my real office, watching the fallout unfold through various media channels and security feeds. Catherine, true to form, had attempted to spin the story her way on social media. Catherine's post 7 a.m. Shocking betrayal. Brother secretly steals family fortune. It took exactly 20 minutes for my PR team to release Package B, carefully documented evidence of her embezzlement from family charities, complete with video footage. Her post was deleted by 7:30 a.m. James took a different approach. He showed up at Mason Holdings' main office, demanding to see me. Sir, Sarah reported, watching him argue with security on the monitor. Your brother is insisting this is all a misunderstanding. He's offering to forgive and forget, if you'll return his penthouse and positions. I sipped my coffee, watching him wave his arms dramatically at the security cameras. Let him wait in the lobby for exactly 1 hour. Then have security give him his entry-level job offer packet again. My parents, surprisingly, were quiet. Too quiet. I pulled up their surveillance feeds, authorized through legal channels. Of course, they were huddled in their kitchen with their longtime lawyer, Maxwell Wright. They're going to try something legal, I told Sarah. Call Maxwell's office. Remind him about the offshore accounts we discovered. Within 10 minutes, Maxwell was excusing himself from my parents' house, ignoring their calls to come back. December 27th. First Move's mom was the first to crack. Her message arrived at 9 a.m. Michael, I've reviewed the employment offer. The position is in the Charitable Foundation division? Yes, I replied simply. Entry-level donor relations. You'll be calling people to thank them for their donations. No executive privileges. Standard benefits package. There was a long pause before her response. I'll take it. I watched her through the foundation's security feeds as she arrived for her orientation. Gone were the designer clothes and jewelry. She looked human. December 28. The media storm. Catherine's failed social media campaign had attracted mainstream attention. News vans parked outside the Mason estate, hoping for comments. I had anticipated this. Released the documentary footage. I instructed our media team. All of it. By midnight, every major network was running the story. Mason Holdings, the silent empire. 8 years of building something legitimate, while the old Mason enterprises crumbled under mismanagement and corruption. Jane's private message. Make them stop. This is humiliating. The truth often is. I replied. Your job offer expires in 3 days. December 29th. Unexpected development. Dad walked into Mason Holdings lobby at exactly 8 a.m. No demands. No lawyer. No drama. He was wearing a simple suit and carrying the job offer packet. Mr. Mason is in a meeting. The receptionist recited as instructed. I know, Dad said quietly. I'm here for the maintenance supervisor position. I watched through the cameras as he sat patiently, filling out the paperwork like any other applicant. When he reached the section about prior experience, he paused. I don't actually have any real experience, he admitted to the HR representative. I just ordered people around. Would you be willing to start as an assistant then? The HR rep asked. Learn the actual work. Dad's hands shook slightly as he checked the yeses box. December 30th. Reality sets in Catherine's social media accounts had gone dark after multiple failed attempts to rally support. The evidence package had been too thorough, the documentation too complete. Mom was finishing her first week at the foundation. The security feeds showed her struggling with the donor call system. But trying, actually trying. James finally cracked after his 7th attempt to enter the executive floors was denied. Jane's email. Fine. I'll take the accounting clerk position. But this isn't over. You're right, I replied. It's just beginning. December 31st. New Year's Eve. The Mason estate, usually the site of an extravagant New Year's party, stood quiet. Through the security feeds, I watched my family in their separate corners of their reduced worlds. Mom was practicing donor scripts in her small rented apartment, her designer purses replaced by a sensible work bag. Dad was studying maintenance manuals, making notes with reading glasses he'd always been too proud to wear in public. James sat in his studio apartment, finally reading the company financial reports he should have understood years ago. Catherine alone remained in denial, holed up in a hotel room, still trying to find allies among our old social circle. But money talks, and now, I was the one who had it. Sarah entered my office with the weekly reports. Sir, the preliminary assessments are in. Would you like to review them? I nodded, taking the folder. Mom shows genuine effort in donor relations. Actually apologized to a staff member she'd previously treated poorly. Dad requested additional training materials for maintenance procedures. Admitted to gaps in knowledge. Jane's son, struggling with basic accounting, but attending all training sessions. Catherine, no compliance. Recommended for removal from program. What are your thoughts? Sarah asked. I stood by the window, looking out at the city. My city, but one I wanted to make better, not just own. Send Catherine a final notice. The others schedule one-on-one meetings for next week, in the small conference room, not my office. They need to earn their way up here. And the redemption benchmarks, keep them in place. 20% of their assets back, but only through documented improvement. Real improvement. Sarah nodded, then hesitated. There's one more thing. The family's old Christmas decorations were found in storage at the estate. They've been asking about them, especially the old angel tree topper. I remembered that angel. Before money and status consumed them, it had meant something. Family, not just fortune. Have it cleaned and restored, I decided. If they earned their way back, they should have something to remind them of what matters. New Year's Eve, 11:55 p.m. My phone buzzed with separate messages from each of them. Mom, the foundation staff invited me to their New Year's gathering. I went. They're actually wonderful people. Dad, the maintenance team leader, offered to give me extra training on weekends. I said yes. James, I didn't understand half of what was in today's accounting lesson. But I'm learning. Catherine, you'll regret this. All of it. 11:59 p.m. I stood in my office, watching the city prepare to welcome the new year. The old Mason family would, but maybe, just maybe, something better could take its place. Mom was right about one thing. The foundation staff were wonderful people. Dad's maintenance team leader was one of our best employees. James's accounting instructor had overcome similar privileges. The lesson wasn't just for my family. It was for everyone who thought money meant merit, who confused inheritance with worth. As the clock struck midnight, and fireworks lit up the sky, I raised my glass to the city below. Happy New Year, I whispered. To new beginnings. Real ones. 6 months later. June. The summer sun streamed through my office windows as Sarah presented the final evaluation reports. 6 months of monitoring, testing, and documenting my family's journey from entitled aristocrats to something else entirely. The results are quite revealing. Sarah began, laying out 4 folders. Would you like to review them? I nodded, opening the first file. Mom's evaluation. Completed 180 days at the foundation, received multiple commendations from donors. Initiated a new program for underprivileged families. Personal note. I never knew giving could feel better than receiving. The security footage showed her working late, learning every donor's story, actually caring. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a genuine smile I hadn't seen in years. Dad's report. Mastered basic maintenance procedures, started a training program for new workers, personally apologized to staff he'd previously mistreated. 0 attempts to leverage the Mason name. He shared lunch with his maintenance team daily, learning about their families, their struggles. He looked older but somehow lighter, as if the weight of pretense had lifted. James's assessment. Completed basic accounting certification. I identified and reported 2 fraud attempts. Perfect attendance at all training sessions. Significant personal growth. Noted the most surprising transformation. The brother who once only cared about status now spent his evenings studying, actually learning the business from the ground up. Catherine's file. Multiple attempts to undermine company policies. 2 failed legal challenges. Current status. Relocated overseas. No contact in 4 months. Some lessons aren't learned. Some people choose pride over growth. Exactly as I'd expected. Sir interrupted. They're here for the 6-month review meeting. I checked the security feed. Mom, Dad, and Jane sat in the small conference room, no longer looking out of place in their business casual attire. They'd earned this meeting. Walking in, I saw nervousness on their faces, but not the entitled expectation of before. Progress. Thank you for coming, I began. Let's discuss your evaluations. Mom spoke first, her voice lacking its old aristocratic tone. Michael, before you start, I need to say something. I'm sorry, not because of the money, but because I forgot what it meant to be a mother. Dad nodded, his hands calloused from actual work. 6 months ago, I would have demanded everything back. Now, I just want to make sure my team has what they need. James looked down at his accounting books. I finally understand why you did this. It was never about punishment. It was about correction. I opened their folders. According to your evaluations, you've all met the requirements for asset restoration. 20% of your original holdings can be returned. They exchanged glances, but nobody reached for the papers. Actually, Mom said quietly, I'd like to donate my portion to the foundation's new family program. Dad cleared his throat. The maintenance team needs new equipment. Could my share go toward that? James straightened his non-designer tie. I'd like to continue in accounting if possible. Maybe work my way up properly this time. I sat back, hiding my smile. This was what real change looked like. Applications approved, I said. But the board has decided to add something. Sarah brought in 3 envelopes. Given your demonstrated commitment to change, you're each being offered legitimate positions. Not executive roles, you'll need to earn those, but real positions with real responsibilities. The silence in the room felt different from the angry quiet of 6 months ago. This was the silence of understanding. Sarah entered with one final item, a carefully restored box. Inside was the old angel tree topper, now cleaned and repaired. The Christmas decorations, Mom whispered. You kept them? They're part of our real heritage, I explained. Not the money or the status, but the family we used to be, the one we could be again. James looked at the angel, then at me. Will you join us for Christmas this year? Not as the owner of Mason Holdings, but as our brother. That depends, I replied. Will it be about showing off wealth, or about actual family? Could we host it at the foundation? Mom suggested. Have the families we help join us. I saw Sarah hide a smile. They really had changed. As they left for their respective departments, I heard Dad tell Mom. You know, I actually sleep better now. Honest work, it feels right. The Mason name was starting to mean something different now. Not power over others, but power to help others. Not wealth for its own sake, but wealth as a tool for improvement. And somewhere in another country, Catherine still didn't understand that she had the same opportunity, the same chance to become something better. But that was her choice to make, just as the others had made theirs. The empire I'd built wasn't just made of buildings and businesses. It was built on the foundation of transformation, both of assets and of people. And that was worth more than all the Christmas parties in the world. End of story.